Welcome to Soul Therapy with Chelle. I am Chelle Griffin and I practice as a soul doula. I combine therapeutic knowledge and lived experience with a healthy dose of spiritual exploration. Feel welcome to join me as we learn and grow together, exploring the magic and wonderment of experiencing life on earth as a spiritual being. And welcome back to Soul Therapy with Chelle. And today we have the second part of our conversation with just the gorgeous Toni Corbett, who is going to take us a little bit deeper. Sit back, make yourself a cuppa if you can, and enjoy. So much to unpack there. My particular favorite was the dude wanting to chew his nails. Like, that's what had to happen for you to change your complete trajectory. How beautiful that what others would call a glitch in the matrix, but that glitch has happened so that you could meet your beautiful friend, Marie.
We called him Mr. Foot Guy, and we always hoped he'd be at the next conference we went to, because unbeknownst to him how much joy he brought us, and obviously I'm on a new trajectory as a consequence of him.
Yeah, he was just being himself, showing up and like that, and maybe that was his purpose. He was meant to just be himself on that particular day, so you two would ignite a conversation over some shared observations and a reminder to be really present and go, hey, and get to know each other and form that beautiful connection so that you could each complete a soul contract together of your own.
Absolutely. Pretty sure he wasn't a podiatrist. We hadn't have looked at him at the same time, then looked at each other and just went, what is, we were obviously not speaking out loud, like, what is going on there? We wouldn't have caught up. And, it's easy to blow off as a coincidence, but I don't believe there's coincidences in this world. I believe there's obviously lots of lessons to learn.
Synchronicity.
Takes forever to learn some things that are not easy to get through at certain times. He played such a valuable part in a friendship, which nowadays, when I'm launching the course, it's an evergreen course, so you can access it at any time. But I talk to Murray all the time. I talk to her about the course. I talked to her about, was she okay with me putting her story in briefly? I talked to her about why I can't upload newsletters on MailChimp, what's going on there. I talked to her through all of it because for me it's a legacy to her, and that legacy through her just being her glorious self. I think it's so important for people to be organised in this particular area, but the families that she's going to hopefully impact.
Absolutely.
And the grief that she's going to minimize. And also, like, when I wrote my personal letters to my children, like, they are love letters. They are love letters talking about how long I had waited for them. And they are love letters regarding who I think they are in my, the short view I've had of them thus far. And that they will always be loved forever. And even if a person just did love letters to their children and to those who are special to them, I think those words, when we're growing up, we're going to go through different periods of certainty and uncertainty all the time. But just to know that someone knows you, like when you talk about in your beautiful podcast, I think it's in one of the earlier podcasts about motherless daughters. Now, if you are raised without a parent, it's easy to have questions about who am I? As you get older, as you go through different milestones, whether it's hormones, whether it's your first partner, whether it's, your first baby or, engagement, marriage, divorce, all the different things that we can experience in life. Having someone who loved you unconditionally tell you those words, and you've got that in your hand, or digitally you can download it in your hand forever. I really think that means something.
It's that unconditional love coming from beyond the grave, and it's a beautiful way of supporting those we leave behind through their own grieving process and redefining our relationship with each of them, that it's obviously going to change. It's not going to be that physical connection, but it can take on another beautiful, gentle trajectory where we can still communicate. They can still write letters to the ones that have passed. And they can, well, we all can. I know in my own story, I see my daughter in spirit form every single day. I have conversations with her, and some people might go, oh my God, that's loopy. We all believe what we believe, and whatever we find comfort in is healthy and meaningful. And to set up this kind of foundation of, yes, it's practical, it's getting the official affairs in order and supporting those to not have such a rocky time in being able to access bank accounts or insurance claims or the safe, things like that. Having that foundational practical taken out of the grieving process, that you're there with a very heavy heart trying to navigate your own shock, because no matter how prepared we are for someone to leave, it still happens. There's still that grieving. It can show up in so many different forms, but the body still feels it and will respond in so many different ways. So I just absolutely love this concept of guiding people like myself, because, to be honest, my hubby and I have been talking about writing a will since we started our business almost 20 years ago. So we still haven't got around to it. So you've been this little kickstart for us going, this is a step-by-step guide that we can follow and get clear on everything, get clear on who we want to care for our kids, what we want done with our belongings, or even step by step on how to get rid of what we don't need, how to protect everyone that's been left behind, not have to come in and clean up a total shit show that we've left behind.
Yeah.
That responsibility, and we sort that out now. And I can't wait to do your course. I know that sounds a bit morbid, but I love the idea of feeling that's a checkbox that I can tick and go, that's something I don't need to think about now and worry about in the future if I've taken care of it now.
Thanks, Michelle. Thanks, Chelle. Sorry, Michelle. I'm getting caught up with another friend. Chelle, I think when I created the course, it was from Marie, but I also thought, when I had set my folder up, the freedom that came knowing it was done, knowing that if ever my children, teenagers, if they stepped out the door and I was not at my finest that morning and I'd said some words that I regretted, I know if something was to ever happen to me, they will find these, almost a thesis, these long love letters to them, that they will know what I thought of them. They won't be having last words that are unkind. And, when you talk about not leaving a shit show, I was speaking to this beautiful lady she cares for a lot of elderly people. And she said one of the challenges for a lot of elderly people is when they move into care, what do they do with their pets? Like, I hadn't even thought of that. I've added that since, but like, these are their family that they've loved and cherished. And in many places, they can't even bring their pets. So it's not so like, we don't say, hey, our 3-year-old's, a bit annoying. We're going to just, drop them down the road. Like, for them, it's their family, their dog, their cat, their guinea pig, their rabbit that they've had for years, and they've had the conversations with them if they've lost their spouse. So there's so much more to think about, I think, than what we're aware of. And we're aware of it. We're not aware of it because we haven't gone through it. And until you talk to someone and they've got to clean up somebody's past, their estate, whether they own a goldfish or whether they own more.
Yeah.
Just to have your plans in place. I just think it's an act of love for those that, whether you're not falling off your perch for 100 years. My mantra's 98 and at the gate. I think I'm not up to the triple digits. I don't need to, get that trophy, but 98 and at the gate. That's what I say to my kids. They're probably thinking you could drop a dick.
I feel like I've hit my halfway point.
But I know they'll all be centenarians. Can't say the word.
Yeah.
20 years or so, but and that'll be probably midlife. Who knows? But I think
Yeah.
just to have that, it's such an act of love, and also just back to the letters. You get to grow with your parent that was looking at you for the now and for the future. Those words get to grow with them, and they will know and have them forever and a day. Those last words, and it's such a to look back and just go, she was thinking this day would happen, and she took the time to make sure that I didn't go to hell and back.
Yeah.
In fact, I knew this lady when my brothers were at school, and she was very unwell and she was passing. And I'm not this sort of person, but if you are, that's fantastic. She planned a funeral down to a T because she knew she had a short runway. And I remember my mum going to it. We were at school at the time, and my mum went to it and she said, it was the best funeral I've ever been to in my life. She had Celine Dion singing, through
My heart will go on.
Absolutely. Kate Winslet couldn't make it, obviously, but neither could Leonardo. But it was the most, like, people, it was almost like going to a wedding or going to a celebration, because that's how she wanted her children and her spouse to think of her, that she is looking at them if those boys are cheeky or they do the wrong thing, or the daughter, that she's still got her finger on the pulse in a different realm. So I just think, even if you do the smallest things, like write some letters, get a brief, or like even a one page of where things are. Because also I have heard this, which I think is terrible, where parents had a son who passed away, unfortunately, at his own hands. He was going through tough times. And because they were not noted down as a legacy in his phone, Apple, well, I shouldn't say the word, wouldn't allow access to his phone. So they never knew what the tipping point was. He had been bad for a bit, but they didn't. So if anything I could suggest to you is pop yourself down as a legacy in each other's phones, and of your beloved, of your family, of your dear friends, if they don't have anybody else. And also, like, have those sort of contingencies in place, because as I said, we never know when we're going to fall off the perch. So it's just good to have those in place, and then you can just go about your life. In fact, back in the day, I used to be an adrenaline junkie. I used to skydive, I used to fly planes and the rest of it. And I'm a little bit less like that now. In fact, done a 180. But having that in place, now I feel like my risk tolerance I can get out there and do a few more things now because I've got that in place. It makes sense. I'm at art school now. I started art school on the side, and that's another thing that I think Murray would have been happy about, because she was such a creative person. And I talked to her about my paintings and how rubbish they might be at the minute, but she's there cheering me on at every stroke, I'm sure. But
you're stretching yourself, and you've still got that friendship living on, just in a different way. And she's there at art class with you, and she's there cheering on. And it's not the outcome that matters; it's the connection that we each feel with that person that's passed, and the people that are here. It's really coming down to being present, isn't it? Making the most of the moments we've got today, and really appreciate that, yes, it can all switch in a heartbeat, that we've had so many sliding door moments throughout our life, and so why do we think we're suddenly immune to certainty? And
it's funny that we roll with it. It is funny that we think we're invincible until, life shows us otherwise. I remember reading about Reese Witherspoon when she went through her divorce with her first husband. And I remember her saying, all this time I thought I was in control. I had the systems, the organisation, the people to support me, etc. And then I realised, when her relationship broke down, that I wasn't in control. And I was, they say you're only really in control of 5% of your life. She said, and now when I look back at that time, what a relief I wasn't in control, because we can't create what our destiny is, which is even brighter than what we can imagine.
That's it. You've just nailed it there. I love to choose a word for my year ahead, And the very first year I did that, I had about 2 or 3 words floating around, and it took me about 6 weeks to finally give in and go with the word that was screaming at me, and it was surrender. And I was
Bloody
like, "No, no, no, I don't wanna surrender control," because I was such a planner. I took comfort in knowing what was coming up because I could prepare myself for that, but I was missing out on so much. And by playing it safe and following this small path that I thought, I just wanna be normal, I just wanna do this and have this little safe life in this little box. And, our life got upended and we moved out of the city and we're totally living a life we love. We still are constantly choosing to surrender day in, day out. But now it's a case of, like, my word for this year has been embrace, and it's embracing that lack of control, embracing the uncertainty, embracing presence and connection, and being in flow, moving with, like, where the wind takes us. And you've set up a beautiful framework to support people to be present. And that is just such a gift. And what a beautiful gift your friend has given you to offer this to so many other, like, mothers and fathers and men and women to be able to um, carry on and carry on that legacy.
Thank you, Charlotte. That's lovely coming from you. I think Tony Robbins said, level of uncertainty you are comfortable with living in your life will be equal in measure to the big life you will live. Because if you can live in uncertainty, your life will be so much richer than what it will be if you're restricting it to control and to, I just want to do this. Like for me, getting out, being my first podcast, thank you so much. Visibility. So as a
You're
woman,
doing great.
I'd like to tell you I've had 3 whiskeys beforehand, but I haven't. Being visible as a woman. So in the corporate space, it's so easy to be visible because you're representing someone else and you can go out there and do what you need to do. But being visible as an entrepreneur, as a woman, it's a harder task to do. But sometimes your mission has got to pull you forward out of that fear of, who am I, imposter syndrome and all of that. That sometimes has to, be the gravity that actually propels you forward, as opposed to pull you down back to earth. You need to, let what is your pure act of service or your purpose-led life to actually take the hands off the wheel and let that take you, because it's going to be a greater pathway than our imaginations could ever create, I think. So that's my 2 cents worth.
What a timely reminder, for me personally, and I'm sure for everyone who's listening today, just that come back to ourselves, check in, look where we are, feel gratitude for where we are, name all the gifts that we're currently experiencing, and then open our hearts to just go forth wherever we're taken and embrace that. And, even our darkest hours have ended up bringing about blessings. So the loss of your beautiful, beautiful friend has brought forth this whole new way of being for you in being her legacy for others, and that conduit for change and growth and creating that foundation of stability as well. It's so, that just makes my heart sing, Toni.
The way you've said it makes my heart sing, Chelle. I think there's silver linings to everything. Sometimes I just think the silver lining,
It's
not as bright
and
sometimes.
sometimes we won't see it. Yeah, it might take a very long time, or we may never see the gift in those dark times, but it's having faith that they're there and just trusting that we'll realize that when we're meant to. I am just so grateful for having you here today. You've done beautifully. You really have. It's been such a joy having you
Thank
on
you so
Soul
much.
Therapy with Chelle. So your course is called Just In Case, and that can be found at your website, myaffairsorganised.com. I will have all the details in the show notes with your website and a link to your course. And thank
Such a
you so
privilege,
much for
Chelle.
being
It's such a
just
privilege.
yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you for all your glorious work. If anyone is yet to tune into you and this is their first time, go back and listen to the other podcasts. You will find that this woman is 1 in a billion with her knowledge
Oh, you're so sweet.
and her heart-led purpose. There's nobody like Chelle on the internet that I've ever come across, and I'm on there every day.
Oh, you're gorgeous. Thank you, darling. Thank you for showing up for yourself by listening to Soul Therapy with Chelle. Feel welcome to subscribe to my podcast, share the pod with your friends, family, colleagues and neighbours. And please, if you are willing, I would absolutely love a 5-star review to give my little pod a boost in the algorithms. For further detail on how to work with me, please visit my website, www.chellegriffin.com, or find me on the socials. I hope you'll join me on my next episode. Till then, go gently and intentionally. With care, Chelle.